I'm Devon Decker.
And I'm Sejohn.
And welcome to the Say Report, where everybody knows your name. That's right, Cody, Monica, Sweet Constance, Zach. We know your names. We know all your names.
Oh, God.
Thanks for listening. Hi, welcome to the Say Report. Sejohn, I don't know why you let me do openings, because I just make them super creepy.
They always become creepy openings. Oh, man.
I was
You know,
proud of that,
it's,
though. I'm not going to lie.
no, this is good. It's bright and early. We're recording this at a very different time than we usually do.
Right, exactly.
So I was in no mood to stop you from doing whatever it was you were going to do.
Well, and as you can tell, everybody knows your name. That's the unofficial motto of Cheers, a Boston-based bar. And the reason why it is so bright and early is because after I record this, I'm shipping up to Boston because I'm going away for a week. So
yeah?
I was able to dig Sejohn up nice and early. It's 8:30 on the Saturday before you're listening to this.
Yeah, most people don't realize this, but I rise from the grave to do this show. Yeah, so every week.
From your grave.
Devon just won't let me rest. He just resurrects me every week to do this show and then just puts me right back in the ground.
It's funny that you should say that, because before we get to Cheers, there's an age-old adage that I have heard my entire life. And that adage goes, Brendan Fraser History Month is not officially over until you talk about the Tom Cruise Mummy reboot that released 2 days ago.
that age-old adage.
You know that age-old adage.
Written on my tomb when you dug me up.
People thought I was crazy when I wrote the Tom Cruise reboot of a Brendan Fraser movie. Who's laughing now, motherfucker?
So, so have you seen it?
I have seen it. I absolutely loved it.
All right, excellent, man.
I wish I could have pulled the Power Rangers and turned around and saw it again, but they only had one showing of the Mummy that I could make it to on Thursday.
I don't know how many showings are going to be left, considering, but we'll see.
Like it's not getting a lot of a good press at all.
Well, and a lot of that is a lot of people that, at least from what I can tell, haven't actually seen the damn movie yet.
Right. No, a lot of people are like real down on it. Like Marc, my friend Marc, he's like, "Oh, you're going to see The Mummy? That shit sucks." And I'm like, "You haven't seen it. You're just judging it based on like, I don't know. Like, it's weird
Tom
to
Cruise,
me.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise. I mean, people hate Tom Cruise, and I get that, right? Scientology and all the crazy stuff that he does. Like, I understand why his Q level is not as high as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I also, we're a show that just dedicated an entire month to Brendan Fraser, and I still do not understand the love and admiration that his Mummy trilogy gets. Like, I feel like that's also part of the problem, is that they're rebooting this movie that is, for some reason, far more beloved than I feel like it ever should be.
Well, and that's also a really weird way of thinking about it for a number of reasons, not least of which that in and of itself was a reboot series.
Exactly.
like we're not talking about that being the original content that this is somehow sullying here. Like the whole point of this new Tom Cruise movie is to actually harken back to the original idea of the Mummy and the Universal monsters and like what that world was. So like it's not even in a weird way, it starts to become like an apples and oranges thing, because when they did the Brendan Fraser ones, those became such a different animal than the Universal monster Mummy movies, you know, like the first one for sure. But by the time you get to things like Scorpion King, like that kind of goes out the window, right?
Well, I would consider Scorpion King part of that Mummy franchise. It's but
at least the second one with Scorpion,
when he comes out as the half man, half scorpion.
Yeah, and that terrible like CGI, and then you get the entire third one.
Can you believe that Dwayne Johnson is Dwayne Johnson right now? Like, you think back to him as the Scorpion King, that goofy-looking, terrible CGI mishmash monster man, and, like, somehow he's a big movie star. I mean, he's a big movie star no matter what. He's a giant of a man, but...
Yeah, that guy's able to put a movie out and make millions now on the same level of Tom Cruise, you know? Like, it's pretty crazy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know where the admiration for the Brendan Fraser trilogy comes from. I mean, they were fun family movies. I remember seeing the first one when I was, I was at just that right age group where I was probably like, it felt like I was too young to see it. Like when I saw it, I was like, ooh, this is one of those movies I shouldn't be seeing yet. But now looking back on it, it's totally innocuous. Like there's no reason I couldn't.
Well, mathematically, it was a PG-13, and you were 11 or 12 in '99,
Right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. I was in just that right age group to like have my mom and dad with me, and like so we could see it, and it just felt like I was getting away with something. So like that's where it sits for me in the nostalgia factor, is it's just one of those first PG-13 movies that I really kind of got to like embrace in all of its like weird, scary, kind of like, I mean, Rachel Weisz, like
I mean,
one of my first on-screen crushes.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, like I love the movie, but I have no way of defending my love for that film. When my kids see it 20 years from now and they're asking me what it is I like about that movie, I'm not going to be able to explain it to them.
Yeah, I mean it's a great adventure movie, and I feel like that's also something that was lacking for most of our childhood. Is like, because in the '80s you had the adventure movie because of Indiana Jones, right? Indiana Jones popularized a movie that was just a balls-out adventure. And that's why you have things like Jewel of the Nile, Romancing the Stone, The Goonies.
Yeah, I was going to say even things like The Goonies owe something to stuff like Indiana Jones for sure.
So, and then like that field went fallow for so long that '99 comes along and you have that first Mummy movie that it's filling a gap that was in the entertainment genre. So it filled a gap. Brendan Fraser was huge at the time. They lucked out and got Rachel Weisz, who, like, that was her introduction, right? I can't think of anything she did before The Mummy.
Oh, I'm feeling like it was one of those situations where she was probably a fantastic star that, like, nobody was paying enough attention to. And that's the first movie where they started paying attention. I'm sure somebody's going to call us out and be like, well, what about these 3 movies that she made beforehand?
What
but
about
you're totally
Sophie's Choice when she was Sophie? Yeah, nice try. That was Meryl Streep. You almost got me, though. Xbox fan 997.
Yeah, man. But no, Rachel Weisz, like, kind of really coming out as a leading lady in that movie as well. I mean, and then even it even gave us what's his name there that played the Mummy that would go on to play all sorts of weird comic booky roles
right now, but he. And also the one who
he ends up in G.I. Joe.
Brother,
he ends up in
who just showed up as like a fantastic character arc on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, so it was this like movie, and I understand that it's special to people. Honestly, right? Confessions right here. I've never seen the first Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
Well, do yourself a favor because that's like
sit down and watch it, right? Like I saw the second one. Because, and that was one that the whole family went out to see. The Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
And I think that the Mummy ride at Universal is one of the greatest modern Universal theme park rides. Have you ever done it?
Oh, yeah, man. I
so
feel like
good.
I'm amazed because I feel like you've actually done the inferior movie then. Like it really is not as good as the first one.
Partially why I enjoy it. Have you seen the new Mummy?
The new one? No, I have not seen the new one yet. No.
All right.
As of this recording.
So like the one, if I had to, okay, I'm gonna. This is like a tiny spoiler, but it's more
spoiler
opinion than anything else.
Yeah, spoil it.
The one thing that I feel the Tom Cruise remake of the Mummy movies, and it's not even really like a remake, right? But the Tom Cruise Mummy film did incorrectly is the Rachel Weisz role. That girl is awful, and I feel so bad that she's awful, but she just like. And apparently she's some great actress. Like, I looked at her credit and the reason why she got the role, and I'm like, oh, I guess she just decided not to act, though, while she was working for the Mummy. She's so wooden. Everything she does feels unbelievable. And, like, I also wonder if maybe it's because she's in this film where, like, everybody else has this pretty heavy pedigree. I mean, like, but then you say that, and, like, Sophia Boutella is playing the Mummy. And we were introduced to her, a year ago with Star Trek Beyond?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But I really, really enjoyed it. And the stuff that I actually thought worked, like, a lot, it does harken back a lot to the originals, the original Boris Karloff stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, right. And, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, that's really the eyes you have to go and watch this movie with is not anything to do with the Brendan Fraser series because that just became its own beast you got to go in and think about the idea of like the universal monsters and like what they were before and what they're trying to do with them now. I'm not saying that makes it any more successful for anybody that didn't like it, but I mean, if anybody's sitting around comparing this to the Brendan Fraser movies, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because the Brendan Fraser movies, I mean, like, that's what they were. Is they weren't mummy movies. Is they were Brendan Fraser action family movies. You know, they fall into the same category as Journey to the Center of the Earth and hell, even Looney Tunes, right?
Exactly what I was gonna bring up.
Yeah, yeah. Is like that. That's more like where the I guess, what do you want to call them? The early 2000s trilogy falls. I don't know. We don't have a fun name for that trilogy right now. I think you call
it the Mummy trilogy, because the original series with Boris Karloff, I mean, you call it the Boris Karloff Mummy. That was 4 movies, so that's not a trilogy. And really, if you look at The Mummy Returns, and Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, is that the
I believe that's the name of the last one.
It
sounds
really
just slightly racist enough to be the right name.
Yeah. It is a self-contained trilogy of films.
Yeah.
With a weird Fox Kids animated series in there as well.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, that movie, like, it took off and it became its own thing. So don't compare this one to that. And again, like, I really can't, because I've never seen that original one. Or if I have, I don't recall anything from it.
I forget. Do they have the kid by the second one, or is that an addition for the TV show and the movie and the third one?
The second one.
That's what it is.
So,
yeah. See the first one. It's in its purest form, and it really is like a fantastic little like horror adventure film.
And I'm gonna say, like, the stuff that really worked for me about this Tom Cruise one, and this is the stuff I was worried about, is it is a lot of universe building, right? Universal wants their own version of the Marvel-verse and the DC Extended Universe and all that.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do that with an existing, market that they have, and the best one to tap into is these Universal monsters. And I felt like a lot of the times when you're making a movie specifically to make other movies, cough, cough, Man of Steel, cough, cough, Batman v Superman, you fail to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Actually, because you're focusing more on the forest when you should be focusing on the trees.
Mm-hmm.
The parts that really shone for me were those glimpses into what this darker, deeper universe will be. Because it was just glimpses.
Yeah.
And it's...
So, officially no references to Dracula Untold? We're officially saying that's not part of this whole series?
Not part of the whole series.
All right. Okay.
Someone told me that I was crazy for bringing that up. Like, we were talking about it, and they're like, I looked into it, and it was never meant to be. And I'm like, but it is Universal who released it. And they announced the Dark Universe. Like, I found the press release for the Dark Universe saying that it was going to start with The Mummy. But it was announced while Dracula Untold was filming. So everybody thought that there'd be like that nice little Samuel L. Jackson. What's his character? Nick Fury. I was going to call him Samuel Fury. There was going to be like maybe a nice little Nick Fury wink at the end of Dracula Untold.
Oh, there was Richard. I mean, there was that whole thing with Richard Dance, right? Like
Charles Dance.
Charles Dance, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Where Charles Dance and Dracula exist in the modern world.
Yeah.
So it really felt nice. And also, like, to be like, whatever, like, split hairs, there's 100% a chance that the Brendan Fraser trilogy of Mummy films exists in the same universe as well.
Yeah, because this isn't the same Mummy, right? So they could definitely...
I mean, there's probably other mummies.
Yeah, if this mummy exists, other mummies can exist, right?
Also, there is a moment where I cheered, because I'm familiar with relics and stuff from it, where they do show a relic from the original trilogy. I don't feel like this is a spoiler. I'm not telling you where it is. Just keep an eye out, right? See if you can find Waldo. And the fact that exists within this world and the timeline, because those movies take place in, like, the 30s, right?
Right.
Like, it's 100%, like, they could have happened, and now we're in a modern time.
Awesome. One last question about this whole thing. I know when they were trying to do this whole Universal thing, they were trying to get their Nolan, their Snyder. They were trying to find somebody behind all of this, and they were looking at Guillermo del Toro. Is it any indication that his hands are still on this sort of stuff? No, like when Universal
honestly,
wanted to do this whole thing.
If I had to, like, if I were going to point a finger to who their Snyder is going to be, it's probably going to be Orson Kurtzman.
Oh, okay.
Because Kurtzman directed this film. And it's his second directorial debut, so, like, directorially, it's still kind of got the training wheels on. Like, the kineticism isn't 100% there for action films. but the humor was great. Like, there are great moments in this movie.
That is a freaking relief, because that's one of the biggest issues that I have with the DC movies. I don't know why I put the emphasis there, but
on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, but that's one of the, but that was one of the biggest issues with the Snyderverse, for lack of a better term at the moment, was that it was lacking such a needed sense of humor. So it's really cool to hear that they actually were able to work that into this one.
But you know what? I will, like, full disclosure about the sense of humor in this film. We saw a Thursday pre-release of it. There were about 7 people in the theater, including myself and my sister, and we were the only people who had any sort of reactions to anything that happened in the movie.
Yeah, well,
no one else really laughed. No one else, like, there was a moment where Dale screamed, and it was a real scream because it got her, like, it scared her. And there were
if anything, that's a good indication that I will find it amusing, at least.
Oh yeah, no, like, if it gets a double-decker seal of approval, don't love that. Let's not make that a thing. There's a good chance that you will enjoy at least something in it, Sejohn.
Excellent, man.
All right,
good stuff.
So before we go into the full Cheers thing, I have kind of been monopolizing our time here. Is there anything you want to talk about, Siege?
Yeah, well, I mean, you were talking about how right after this you got to hop in a car and drive off to Boston. Well, the other side of this coin is that I am about to hop into a car and go camping for the weekend after this. Like, literally, the second that we finish recording, I'm going to go grab my backpack that is sitting by the door, and I'm just going to hike it over to my friend's house, and we're going camping for a night or two.
That is like, smart. You're packed beforehand. I still have to pack.
No, man, camping has always been kind of a big thing in my family. Anybody
You're
that doesn't know,
Eagle Scout, aren't you?
I am an Eagle Scout. Yes, I am.
That's what Boy Scouts is. It's camping.
Yeah, so I've done some of it in my life. And it's just something that, like, I don't get enough time to do nowadays, which sucks because I'm actually in a really nice area for it. So we're taking some time in this beautiful summer month to go and try and find somewhere to go.
This weekend of summer that we're gonna have.
Yeah. So just been getting ready all week for that. So in terms of the packing, I've actually been packed for a couple of days.
Nice. That's
but
smart.
Like, I'm trying to find the big thing that's killing me right now is I cannot find anything fun to do for outdoor games. We went looking for some good, like, outdoor games, and I don't know, like, the big thing out here is cornholing. Do you know what that is?
I know that the way that you just said it, I don't think we're talking about the same thing. That's it. You got to really work on your tone and emphasis.
That's my big problem out here, man.
It's cornhole. Just call it cornhole. The ing makes it sound like a more nefarious act. In fact, hold on. Yeah, I hear the banjos. No, I know cornhole. It's basically horseshoes with beanbags is the way that I describe it to people who've never played cornhole.
Yeah, that's it exactly. But that's what everybody plays out here. So when you go into any place out here to try and find, like, outdoor games, that's, like, the thing that they have. And they have, like, 6 different versions of it, because you can get one with, like, Ohio State beanbags or Bowling Green beanbags, or, like, fucking Detroit Lions ones out here too. And, like, I don't want to play that game to begin with, let alone buy a Detroit Lions version of that game.
I feel like Detroit Lions is the version I would get, though, of the 3 that you mentioned.
Considering how bad I am at it, it would basically be like I get to, role play as the Detroit Lions. But no, man, like, I'm trying
LARP of cornhole.
So I'm just trying to find some good outdoor games. I don't know, like growing up, I was always a big fan of bocce. Like, that was the big thing in my family, and horseshoes. Out here, I did discover ladder toss. I had never done that before. Have you ever done ladder toss?
Ladder toss is a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, ladder toss is fun. My problem with ladder toss is that you need a really good set to actually have some fun with it, because we bought a cheap set last year, tossed these
It's bolos.
I was going to say bolos. That's the word. I was going to say we tossed the balls, and just, like, it just completely whipped around one of the things and took it out of the ground and, like, went flying at a little kid. And we were just like, well, we're not going to keep playing this, which is unfortunate.
We're going to play a game this dangerous. Let me go get my jarts.
Yeah, man. Lawn darts is actually really big out here again. But now everybody, what they use is these, like, soft tip things. So they just kind of hit the ground and then just squish.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't really go into the ground.
Fun. They need to go into the ground.
Exactly. It's not fun if your friend isn't just running away.
You're not in mortal danger, which is why here's a game that I can recommend to you. Have you ever played Tipsy Tomahawk?
No. Oh dear God,
So
what are we
Tipsy
doing?
Tomahawk is a fantastic game. You got to get some like little hatchets, right? And you find a tree and you put a target on the tree, right? And you can just
Okay.
carve it, just like have it, or you can just use the tree as the target. And you step back a ways, like 30 to 50 feet, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And you throw the hatchets at the tree. And if you hit the tree, you're safe. But if you miss the tree, you gotta take a drink of your beer.
Oh man. Nothing goes better with hatchet throwing than a little drinking.
I'm just
That sounds.
saying. I mean, like that's a good outdoor game. It's a little bit more southern.
Well, I was gonna say that sounds like a game that was created in New England but made its way through the Midwest for a minute, and then it found its way
Oh, and
back
now
to
it's part of the Swamp Olympics.
you.
If if such a thing exists, and such a
Oh
thing must
man.
exist, right?
Yeah, but hatchet throwing was always a big thing for me when I was actually in Cub Scouts way back in the day.
Yeah.
I actually got an award not for like being accurate, but my groupings were always really good. So like I had never quite figured out how to aim them, but I was always able to get them together.
Which
I don't know.
that's like it's your aim is off, but your accuracy is good. So it is
Yeah.
accuracy.
Yeah, okay. So so I remember actually having a really good time with hatchet throwing.
So and look at
I don't
that.
know how
So,
happy I
so
don't know
you
how happy anybody around here would be about me throwing axes at a tree
That's
at
what
the
I was
campsite.
gonna say. I'm like, oh, so like you'd be a dark horse too. You recommend this game where we're gonna go throw hatchets and drink if we're not good at it? And like, I slowly watched as everybody got wasted.
Oh man, yeah, that's true. I actually wouldn't be doing that much drinking, I guess. No. Oh man. But no, I mean, like, I'm always a fan of like pub games and lawn games and stuff like that. So trying to find something really cool to like to just play with just the few of us so that we can just sit around and not really care about it is important, you know?
Yeah.
Because we've got a ton of other games, but like,
Well, you
I
know,
don't know.
like fun games, like, and I know, like, I hate to like say this stuff, but like, Build a Title's always a fun, just sitting around game.
Oh yeah,
And so is Purple Rain Man. I love playing Purple Rain Man, like, because that's something that like my mother and I we're just gonna like sit around drinking too. So that's a game that we're gonna play, where you just think of the movies that you can jam together and you name the two top actors from it and see if anyone else that you're sitting with can figure out what you're thinking of.
oh man.
That game is lots of fun.
Oh, now I'm trying to do one in my head. All right, all right. Anyway, but like, yeah, casual gaming is like is something that I don't do enough of in my life. I like everything that we get involved in. You know, whether it's video games and we're getting, and deep into that stuff for this, or if I'm doing research and I'm getting really deep into a game, or God forbid somebody brings over a tabletop game and I get lost for 6 hours creating a character and all that sort of shit. But like trying to find something that we can just play really quick while we're just hanging out drinking is key right now. So that's like the
So why
one
not
thing
just
that I'm
play something
looking
like
for.
Kings. I mean, that sounds like fine campsite fun.
Oh yeah, man. You want to sit around and just get plastered? Let's play some Kings. I'm down for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you don't want to get plastered yet, right? I get it. You're like
Mm.
you're trying. This is a very tenuous tightrope you've given me to have to like try to offer you fun you can have in the woods.
Well, yeah, right, right. You got to think about this is that you need to have just enough fun that you're it's crazy and you're out in the woods, so like you get to be a little freer than you would just sitting around at home. But at the same time, you also have to respect the fact that you're out in the woods and camping and you don't want to get like lost or dead.
Yeah, that's why you don't leave the campsite.
Yeah, well, we'll figure something out, I
Yeah, no,
guess.
I'm
But
sure. Like you're there, so that's a pretty intelligent grouping of people. I mean, you're in charge. They got an Eagle Scout. They're fine.
so if you hear about me like losing a foot this week, it's because of Tipsy Tomahawk.
Oh man,
Excellent, man.
That's good. That was a fun time.
So why don't we dig into your Cheers
Okay,
obsession,
so
your
let
new
me-
obsession?
It's not a new obsession. It's an old obsession. In fact,
Oh,
in a
right.
week of confessions, like I've never seen the Mummy, I have a real deep confession to make to you, and I feel real bad about this, but I've been carrying this weight on my chest for a while. So if you'll allow me to unburden it upon you, with your
I'm nervous.
permission, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, come on.
So
What do you got?
2015, I was supposed to come out to visit you in Bowling Green over Memorial Day weekend.
Okay, all right.
And I got to the halfway point, and I got violently ill.
I
at a
do
rest
remember this
area.
trip. Yeah, I do remember this. Okay.
And so so it's 5 hours to you, and it's 5 hours home. So the question is, do I push through this sickness that I have inside of me to get to you, or do I cut my losses and head home? Right?
Okay.
So I cut my losses and I head home, right? But another person lives in Ohio, and that person is comedian Jeff Tate, who I had met and was starting to get friendly with from a couple of times I had seen him perform. I had told him I was going to be in Ohio visiting you, and he invited me to come record a podcast with him. So even though I did not see you that weekend, after I got home and got that email from him, I did head back to Ohio to record a podcast with him live.
You jackass.
And I feel, and I've always, and like, I've been like super supportive of you and stuff lately. And then I'm like, but there's this dark hidden secret that I've never shared with Sejohn.
Oh, God.
And
so is it available anywhere? Or
no,
what?
Unfortunately, it's not available. That's like the worst part is like there were
Totally
issues with the
worth
recording and stuff that we said. Oh, yeah, like it's like, if you want to talk about, I don't really have regrets, right? I remember once driving in a car with David Howard, and he's like, yeah, but regrets are a part of life. And I'm like, I don't think I have a single regret, David. And he's like, what?
No regrets.
No regrets, right? I regret getting no regrets tattooed on my chest.
Oh, man.
But if I had to like regret adjacent is that Memorial Day weekend where I ended up spending like 27 hours in a car. Did not end up seeing you, which was like a real kick in the nads. And then like recorded, and it was a good like podcast. Like we like went real deep on like Cheers and stuff, and that's the whole reason is because he used to do a Cheers podcast, and I was super into Cheers at the time.
Nice.
But that inspired me. At that same time, I was working on Friends on a Couch, and I've always had this question in my mind as to which was more successful, Cheers or Wings. And using that podcast, I wanted to do an episode where I compared the two and the stars to see who was more popular. And Cheers wins by a mile. Like, it's not even worth sharing the research to show that.
I love Wings. Wings was the one that I was watching when it was on TV. Cheers was the thing I was watching in reruns. So like Wings to me seems a little bit bigger in my head, but if I actually think about it, yeah, you're right. That falls apart pretty instantly. Like Cheers is definitely the bigger show.
I mean, like, even though they were running around the same time and they're set around the same area, and there's crossovers between the two shows. Like, that's why they're inextricably linked in my mind. It's because, like, there is the episode where Norm and Cliff are stuck at the airport because they're going fishing. And it's like, this makes no sense. Why are they not at Cheers? Why would they go to Nantucket to fish?
It's a Mad About You friend situation where, like, they're in the same area, so they kind of run into each other from time to time. Is that what the...
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Excellent,
and it's
man.
like Tony Shalhoub was really the only one who became a star from that show. We're using that to become a star in my mind is someone who transcends the genre, right? Like, it doesn't matter that Tim Daly has done a bunch of TV work after Wings, animated voice of Superman, currently on Madam Secretary. Movie-wise, I want to say he said Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. I feel like that's the only movie role that he had.
No, I think the bigger one that you're going to find on Wings, the biggest one you're probably going to find on Wings is Thomas Hayden Church.
Church, right? There's a person that I forget too.
Like, no, I mean, like, and he is. I mean, God, I love him, and I will swear up and down that he is actually secretly one of the best actors of our time. But like, he just doesn't do anything. Like, he just really just doesn't. I don't know what it is about Thomas Hayden Church, but he just doesn't show up enough and stuff. But I mean, like, go back and watch what's the one he did with Paul Giamatti all about the wine Sideways. Go and watch Sideways.
So good,
and
like, We Bought a Zoo. I love him in
We Bought a Zoo is really good.
Like,
I mean,
Thomas
hell,
Hayden
like,
Church.
watch George of the Jungle. You want to talk about Thomas Hayden Church movies?
Oh, well, you've just given me a new assignment, and it will reinvigorate my look into Wings. So, like, getting back to it, like, I've done the research. I've looked into Cheers, like, actors and stuff. So Tuesday, again, I felt violently ill this past Tuesday. I came home from work, and I slept for 5 hours. I woke up around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And could not get back to sleep after that.
I wonder why.
So, yeah, right? So it's 1:30 a.m., and I'm flipping through Facebook and stuff, and someone put up the question, who do you think the biggest star to come out of Cheers is? And without even thinking about it, I replied, Woody Harrelson. And, like, from me, that response was, like, definitive, we're done. We don't need to look into this any further, right? We can move on. And somehow that sense of accomplishment that I found the question that like needed to be answered and answered it got me to fall asleep. But then I woke up the next morning and other people had weighed in on it with what I felt, frankly, were incorrect answers. So because I'm insane, I did a deep dive into the cast of Cheers to determine who the biggest star to come out of Cheers was.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, we should run down the list on this cast, because the thing about Cheers is it is everybody on that show eventually became bigger than Cheers itself. Whether or not they became, big in the grand scheme of things is a different conversation. But every single one of them, Cheers wasn't their last stop.
Right, which is like, well, looking at this, that's true. I mean, like Kirstie Alley, who would be the least successful if we're judging based on. I judged on film roles after Cheers, right? Because then able to break out of television and stuff like that. But then, like, you think about Kirstie Alley, she had the show Kirstie on NBC. She also has the show now, right? Like she even had a film career throughout the 90s. Like, Kirstie Alley was able to make movies. Like, she's not anymore, maybe, but there was a period of time where you made a Kirstie Alley movie, you were at least going to get moms in the seats, which was, for some people. But I mean, like, what's the one that her and Tim Allen did? Like, I remember her and Tim Allen did one where they were like a rich couple. Poorer. Yeah, for richer or poorer. Yeah. That was a huge thing around me for all of the, the moms to like talk about. And like, it was one of those, I think like my grandmother had like dragged my mom and her sisters to it, and they like went out together, and then it became like a movie in my family, and a couple of cousins and all that all like saw it together. And it picked up steam in a way that I didn't expect for richer or poorer to ever pick up steam. And it also picked up steam in a way that for richer or poorer, in the larger scheme of things, failed to pick up. Sort of killing the film career of both Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley.
It's just
it's just weird to think of it, but I mean, all right, so here's the thing, right? I'm just going to give the statistics before we continue with it. I looked at films that they were in, no matter the size of the role, but a film that they were in after May 20th, 1993, the day that the finale of Cheers ended, right? Just to give a timeline. And this is as of Tuesday, so as of June 7th. And it doesn't count pre-production stuff or like stuff that is finished but hasn't been released yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So that seems like fair criteria, right? I mean,
yeah. It's interesting that you're just going just the film route, because that's where. So you and I talked about this question before we got on the air, and you asked me what my answer to this was, and I, without hesitation, just said Ted Danson. And then, like, I was like, obviously, there's a conversation to be had because of guys like Woody Harrelson and who else was I thinking of at the moment
Grammer?
Too? Kelsey Grammer was definitely in that. Who played not Kirstie Alley?
Shelley Long.
Shelley Long was the other one, right? Yeah, I mean, like there. So there's definitely a conversation to be had about all these other character actors on this show for sure. So like, but Ted Danson for me is the big one, and specifically, it's because I didn't limit myself to just thinking about the film things. I mean, if you want to talk about who had the most successful film career afterwards, you can't argue. Woody Harrelson has definitely been the most successful out of all of them in terms of being able to trans. Yeah.
That's why I like that you said we have to have a conversation on it, because I think you're right, but I also feel like Ted Danson going into Cheers was already a star. They sold that show on his star power in the beginning. Because he had been like, I mean, NBC had this real interesting thing that they did where they'd find an actor that they liked and they would like sprinkle them through as guest stars. Like Ted Danson appeared on Magnum PI a lot, which is real funny when you consider like Three Men and the Baby.
Well, I was going to say, did he do the thing where he showed up as different characters? Because that happened a lot on that show, where the same actor would show up as like three different people. Same thing on Columbo and stuff like that too.
As far as I know, he only showed up as Ted Danson as a character one time, but that was sort of his like big introduction, and the response to him was so large from that. Yeah, that's why he got Cheers.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that is true. Like Shelley Long and Ted Danson and stuff like that had some career
like Shelley Long
power
was in,
before they ever went into it.
What the hell is that Henry Winkler movie? Night Shift?
Yeah.
Yeah, where like So she was big on that. So that movie was sold on their that show was sold on their star power. So
well, and when you watch it, it's totally built around the two of them.
Sam and Diane is a trope now because of Sam and Diane.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like you say that, but like so it like Ted Danson was like interesting to introduce into it because becoming a star, like the star to come from Cheers, he really didn't have anything before it. So like he sort of like became a non-starter in that type of question. No, I mean Ted Danson. Like he came in as a star.
Oh,
and like so he was able to leave as a star, right? Like it was a television detour, and then he still did 19 film projects afterwards, in addition to Damages and CSI.
Well, Damages and Bored to Death, and then what's the one he's doing right now? With he's got another actually successful show that was just picked up again. Him and Kristen Bell, The Good Place. Yeah,
when he was in Fargo, like he was in the second season of Fargo. So like he's got a good role, and that's it. But like he's always kind of been a star. Yeah. So like I'm looking at Cheers as like a star making, field. Yeah. And I feel like that's the other reason why Woody Harrelson is the definitive answer to the question.
He's the big breakout. That's if you're going to define the question as who's the big breakout star, then yeah, for sure. I guess that I could totally see Woody Harrelson being the answer to that. I mean,
I have these numbers, so I'm going to say it. He's been in 59 films since Cheers ended in 93. In May of 93.
But we need to put that in some perspective. I mean, Nick Cage makes 59 films in a year. That doesn't mean that they're all amazing projects.
Okay, but like of those 59 films, you got 4 Hunger Games. You got films like Natural Born Killers.
Oh yeah, and he runs he runs the gambit, right? Like he goes from everything from Zombieland all the way to The Messenger, right? Like the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, fucking, you want to see Woody Harrelson?
Reference.
Oh, you want to see Woody Harrelson not be Woody Harrelson? Watch Rampart, right? The Messenger is also a fantastic film, and Ben Foster and him just like it's just the two of them acting.
We're gonna talk like just Woody Harrelson, like unassuming sort of role. What he did in Edge of 17 last year with Haley Steinfeld, like impressed the crap out of me.
Okay,
especially because
I enjoyed it.
He did that movie. I really liked that movie, and then he was also in Now You See Me 2. Where he was like a goofy playing a dual role.
Yeah. And Now You See Me, and then Now You See Me 2, where he gets to play 2 versions of himself. It was
so he's having fun. He's doing serious takes. Like he really is that. And then like who would you think would be number 2?
Well, John Ratzenberger, obviously, because he's never made a bad film. That's the difference between like whereas him and Woody Harrelson have not made nearly the same number of movies, every single one of John Ratzenberger's movies have been phenomenal.
You know what really impressed me? So he's had 33 roles, roles since then, right? Mm-hmm. Only 52% of them are Pixar.
Yeah, you think that when I make that joke, you mean I'm just talking about him playing the Abominable Snowman and stuff like that.
The one voice in Pixar movies, but it's like no, he did 17 Pixar films and he did 16 other roles, including his directorial debut, The Village Barbershop, which is fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because he was sitting next to me when I watched it.
Oh, that voice. You cannot go wrong with that voice, though.
He's a great guy. Like, I say that he was sitting next to me. That's a little bit of a thing. But he did come to the Rhode Island International Film Festival with that. And I ran into him during the gala. And I didn't treat him like he was John Ratzenberger as everybody else was. So that's why we wound up drinking for an hour and just talking.
And like getting back to like Cheers as a show, like there's something about these guys that we're all talking about: Ted Danson, Woody Harrelson, John Ratzenberger, even Shelley Long, and like the attitude that they have. I don't know if it comes from Cheers or if they were just all naturally that, and whoever put Cheers together just found this group of people. But they've got that local bar friend feel to them, right? Like, I could totally see drinking with John Ratzenberger. Ted Danson is totally the kind of guy that you feel like you could sit down and have a drink with and talk and, shoot the shit about film and stuff like that for hours. So they have that air about them as stars that totally makes you want to go and see them. And
they seem like approachable people.
Well, and then in terms of work, no wonder these guys are all working so much still, because they all seem like great people to work with as well, even if they're not making, phenomenal films year after year after year. Like, look at somebody like Woody Harrelson, where he had plenty of years where he wasn't making decent films. Go back and watch White Man Can't Jump right now, and it's not the classic we all thought it was.
White Men Can't Jump. which I will admit, as a film that I love, it is not the classic you all remember. That happened before the cutoff date.
Oh yeah,
So,
but I mean, in terms of like work ethic and like attitude, right?
yeah,
Like you
no,
can
he
bet
has
that
to
they had a
have.
hell of a time. They must have had a hell of a time making that movie, despite the fact that it wasn't, it's not the fantastic film. Like at the end of the day, I don't think any of them regret making it because it seems like everybody on that movie was having a hell of a time. And the same goes for Cheers. Like you could just tell that was just a hell of a show to be
Oh,
working
if
on
you want to
with
just
that group of people.
if you want to have just see a good time about that,
Yeah.
watch the special they did around the 200th episode. It's
Mm.
still up on Netflix. Like it's just like these guys clearly love working with each other, and
Yeah.
that's why it's sort of sad that like Shelley Long, one of the reasons she left is because she felt like she wasn't part of the gang.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like part of that comes from the culture at the time in the late '80s, early '90s, like the very heavily, heavily misogynistic for
Well,
like
there's that.
like
There's also the fact that Diane Chambers, for all of her like will they won't they with Sam, if you remove that from her character, she's kind of an awful character. And
yeah,
it's why it was so difficult for Shelley Long to have a career after Cheers,
mm,
because she never escaped from the Diane Chambers character. Like she never got to be the fun like hooker that she was in Night Shift again.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like she's got some phenomenal comedy chops on her.
Oh
Like
my
I
god.
love Shelley Long.
She's in Modern Family. She's
Yes,
Jay's
she
first
plays
wife.
she plays the ex-wife, and
And
she
she is
is
so good. Like that's one of the things. Like the episode that got me into Modern Family was Fulgencio, which had that beautiful Godfather like
yeah,
homage at the end, which is
yeah.
still like one of I think that will always be my number one Modern Family moment.
It's a really good one when they do the whole while they're doing the baptism, they keep flashing to to the kids,
Yeah, taking
care
care
of
of the
business.
problems. Like
Yeah,
it's super good.
it is really good.
And that's what got me watching it. So I started watching, like, because it's in syndication almost everywhere.
Yeah,
And I started watching it. And when I saw that Shelley Long was playing their mom, I'm like, oh, but that's perfect.
yeah,
And the stuff that she's done has blown me away consistently.
yeah.
On
Well, and I
that
mean, like
show.
even something as goofy as like Troop Beverly Hills. She's the one in that, right?
Yes,
Like
she is in
I
True Beverly
remember
Hills.
when I was a kid, like Shelley Long was that comedy actress that was just always guaranteed to be in a movie that I was going to enjoy, like family comedies and things like that.
The
And I do
Money
wish that
Pit,
she was
right, is the
doing
one
more.
that she's in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Money Pit with Tom Hanks,
Tom
like
Hanks.
Tom.
Everything he says is hilarious.
I mean, yeah, like I've always really loved Shelley Long, and you're right. Like she couldn't get out of that Diane stuff, and Diane as a character was never really well written. And again, I think it comes back to the fact that at the time, that's just not like
Yeah, she was supposed to be this
TV was a boys' club,
contrarian to that group, and
yeah, yeah, it wasn't. They wanted to kind of capture that moonlighting attitude, of having these two leads that were clearly attracted to each other, and they didn't really go much deeper than that with her. Yeah, and that sucks. But that being said, Cheers also did kind of break down a lot of other boundaries in terms of stories and how you did ensemble comedy and things like that, right? Like
I would just like to point out that you said that moonlighting thing. Moonlighting
Mhm.
came 3 years after Cheers premiered. So Moonlighting
Well-
was trying to capture Cheers.
Moonlighting did it better than I think.
Moonlighting definitely did it better because, I mean, it was an hour long, right? Like they had the opportunity to flex the time between those people.
Well, and maybe that's why Moonlighting works better than Cheers for me then, is the fact that maybe coming those few years later, learning lessons from what Cheers was doing. Because by that point, you do have things starting to kind of go sour with the whole Sam and Diane stuff.
Also,
All right.
I mean, like, because Sam and Diane get together at the end of the first season. The second season is them dating. And then the third season, they're broken up again.
Mhm.
So luckily, Moonlighting got to see, don't get them together right away.
Right. Right. So
Like, you
Moonlighting
need to
learns his
tease
lessons
it.
from
The tension
Also-
is the enjoyable part.
maybe your female character needs to have a few more dimensions other than I'm just super into this dude and I can't tell why.
Right, but to be fair, Sam's dimension is mostly I'm an alcoholic who's super into this chick and I don't know why.
He's an alcoholic that runs a bar, and they play with that a little bit more than than they ever did with Diane.
That's true, because there's no reason if we're like, I love that this is our Cheers episode. I really do love that we're doing a Cheers episode. There's no reason for her to stay there. There's no, like, because she apparently has a wealthy family and, like, she has a degree. So why she insists on working at Cheers, despite the fact that nobody likes her, she doesn't really like anybody, it's like crazy.
Right.
Like, it's
What it comes
just
down to
because
is
she's in love with Sam, kind of,
exactly.
maybe?
Exactly. Well, what you're pointing out, man, is the fact that in the last 30 years, we have started to have a lot more complex thoughts about our female characters than they did especially on television. We talked about this a few episodes ago with the idea that like television has had a renaissance in the last 15 years. And we actually want dimension and we want complexity from all of our characters, not just the main character, so Cheers nowadays wouldn't work, or at least Diane would not work at all for more than an episode or two because of the fact that you're right. The only reason she sticks around is because she is quote unquote in love with Sam.
She's like tangentially attracted to Sam.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and then in that, she's not even really that much in love with him at first. It takes a long time for that to really develop, and yeah. So, like, that character, I don't think that character would just work anymore, and that's one of the sad facts about Cheers, is that there's a reason that there's not a show like it anymore on television, because we expect more.
In the vein of that, in the vein of what you just said, there is a show like that on TV, and it is Superior Donuts, which was going to be my wrap-up.
What? What is this?
Superior Donuts stars Judd Hirsch. Katie Seagal is there. And, he plays... I can't think of his name, and I love him. And I'm so upset that I can't think of his name. Dennis Keckner is in it as well. But that's not who I'm thinking of. I can't think of his name. He played Jimmy Westwood. If you can get his name. He's great. So it's all centered around a Chicago donut shop, the titular Superior Donuts, and Judd Hirsch hires a black man to come work for him, and so like he's sort of bringing this outdated like Superior Donuts. All
right, so I'm seeing Keckner, Maz Jobrani's on it as well.
Yeah, Maz Jobrani. I couldn't think of his name.
Always for a show that has Maz Jobrani.
Maz Jobrani is like,
keep giving that man work.
He's so freaking funny in this show.
He is.
He really plays what is his name? The guy who ended up buying the restaurant above Cheers. I can't think of the character's name. But that guy, that bald guy who ended up dating Carla, he sort of fills that role in Superior Donuts as opposed to like one of the buddy round guys. But it all takes place at this donut shop. So instead of a bar, they all come in, they get their donuts, they get their coffee, and they talk about the issues of the day. And it's sort of that surrogate family for all of these people. And
this is the new one that Jermaine Fowler's doing.
Yes.
All right. Or Fowler. I always do that wrong.
Jermaine Fowler.
All right. Yeah. It has not done much, but I've actually really liked... Yeah.
And granted, it's CBS, and we've already talked about the CBS curse, that it's almost impossible to find their shows anywhere.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that kept me coming back, because like it started a little bit shaky because they tried to hedge too closely to the play that it is based on.
It's a Tracy Letts play.
Yeah, it's a Tracy Letts play.
Oh, man. Tracy, I love Tracy Letts. Like, straight up, actually, really, like, the guy is amazing.
Exactly. And but, the first 2 episodes really, like, stay close to the play before doing the Odd Couple thing and making it its own story.
Yeah.
And honestly, we talked about The Odd Couple being canceled and how sad that made both of us. I feel like the people at CBS are like, we only have room to have one sitcom that's based on a popular Broadway play.
Yeah, but and I can totally see this being in that vein of the Neil Simon-esque style. So, like, you're totally right. This is definitely them just saying Superior Donuts is going to be their new Odd Couple for a while and see how that works. We'll totally have to check this out. But I can already tell just by the cast list alone on this that this is already a much more complex show than Cheers ever was.
Right, and that's the thing is that like because Cheers, if you just took Cheers and transplanted it, it wouldn't work. But so you watch this show, and it's an ethnically diverse cast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the show is about Judd Hirsch, taking on a young African-American apprentice in this shop in the middle of Chicago. Like, there's no way that they're going to be able to avoid certain things, certain conversations and stuff like that, right? Yes. Like, that's awesome. That's really cool.
And it's fantastic. Every week I watch it. It still manages to find ways to tug on my heartstring, and usually it's ways that I was not expecting. So if you're a fan of Cheers and you're trying to get that itch scratched, 100% I recommend Superior Donuts to you.
Cool. Excellent, man. Yeah, like Cheers is a funny thing for me, man, because like we grew up in just the right area for it, so it was always kind of, on the peripherals for all of us. I've actually been to the Cheers bar, the actual one,
Not Faneuil Hall.
not the one at Faneuil Hall. I have also been to the one at Faneuil Hall because I mean,
the one at Faneuil Hall is the cooler one because it actually looks like the bar.
Yeah, it's actually downstairs. It's actually
Yeah, but it's not like the one where where you see it every week when they show Cheers. That's like clearly just like we're gonna build a bar here and call it Cheers.
Yeah, and so the bar is really cool, and like you just kind of grow up around it over in the Boston area and stuff, and so like it was kind of hard to avoid. So like growing up, like I was always aware of Cheers, and like once TV Land became a thing, or Nick at Night even at first, but then eventually TV Land, like that it was hard to avoid that show because it was one of the first shows that they picked up, and were just showing constantly. So like I've got a ton of Cheers in my background. It's just not a show that I ever really watched with much of a scrutinizing eye because it was way back in the day when I was too young to be doing that sort of thing. And now it's just such a part of my repertoire. I don't even think about it too much, but exactly. I should totally go back and give it a shot.
Dude, I would 100%. You don't, I know for a fact that you don't remember any episodes with Ernie Coach Pantuso.
Okay.
The Nicholas Colasanto episodes from seasons 1 through 3 before his unfortunate passing, it's like a different show. Like before Woody got there, and there's no way that and maybe you do, like maybe I'm not giving you the credit that you deserve, but like you were born in like 87, I was born in 86, those aired 82 to 84. So like it's just stuff that we weren't alive for in order to experience.
And when it came to syndication, the first few seasons without Woody Harrelson, those were not.
They didn't really show them that often.
They were not the ones that were syndicated. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And also because like the first season, there are ones that like you can only describe them as morality plays that take place at Cheers. Like it almost feels like, all right, so we're going to do an episode about homophobia. Norm, you're going to be playing the guy who's kind of okay with it. Cliff, you're super homophobic this week. All right, man, break.
In that vein, as far as early Cheers goes, if you want to try and find something that's maybe a little bit more that way, and it's funny but really much more of a heavy thinking type show, is what's the one that Steve Buscemi and Louis C.K. did for Hulu, where it's what it is it's all staged like proscenium style staged, and like it's all one take, like they film it all as just one long basically play and then put it up. Like, and I don't mean like they do with all television shows. I mean, straight up, it seems like what they did is they actually just do the whole script as if it is a night at the theater, and then they just filmed it and put it up. And it's super awkward to watch because of that, because I don't know if anybody here ever watches plays that are filmed, but for me, they're really hard to watch. Like if you're not in the audience watching it live, plays recorded are always kind of a little off. And so this show definitely has that feel. Hold on, I'll pull it up. But it's about the two of them owning the bar, and there is that whole element to it. Like it does have a very, it does have its funny moments, but then there's always these really weird morality moments. Written by Louis C.K., and I think very much trying to capture the early Cheers vibe of like the downtown bar that just is full of.
Yeah, because these are people, this is where the common man comes to go. So like, let's take these issues that the common man is facing and like expose it to a wide audience.
Horace and Pete.
I knew it was and Pete, but I couldn't think of the first.
Yeah. Horace and Pete. It's an interesting watch, and I think that what you're talking about with some of the early stuff with Cheers, I think that that's what Louis C.K. is trying to capture with Horace and Pete, is some of that stuff that kind of disappeared once you got into the later show, and Cheers kind of established itself as the like fun comedy, romantic comedy
once
that
Woody
it became.
Harrelson got there. I mean, like,
and once
that's when that show really kind of leaned heavily into the more comedic side of the dark comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still dark comedy.
And once they kind of brought in Kirstie Alley and kind of turned it into
became
that
a much broader
weird
show as well.
Yeah. Yeah, man. But I think I can get behind it. I mean, I know I can totally agree with the idea that Woody Harrelson is definitely the biggest film star to break out of Cheers for sure. Like, I don't think there's any way to argue with that. I think out of that whole cast, like I said, it's hard to ignore what they all went on to do afterwards, because they've all done some phenomenal work. Exactly. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes into like really kind of consistently just being just never stopping with impressive work, I mean, that's Ted Danson through and through.
That's the thing, but like I said, it's 100%.
And he was
already on the star highway. he came off and did a 10-year like respite, and then he got back on that star highway, and he's still riding it high.
Yeah.
Despite he's had a pretty hard life. If you want to if you want some light reading, go to the Wikipedia page for Ted Danson.
Yeah, Oof. Yeah, especially like some of the stuff with him and Whoopi Goldberg when they were together, and some of the moves they tried to make together that just were not working for anybody.
Yeah, that didn't work, but like and he is still a person who, like, you go out there, Ted Danson. It's a name. He doesn't have any aspersions cast upon him. This was good. I really thank you for letting me do my Cheers episode, CJ. Like 100%. I do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed it, or even if you didn't enjoy it, Marc Daniels, longtime collaborator of me, and we were playing Super Mario Kart 8 the day that it came out. And when we got our first online first place, we decided to celebrate by singing the Cheers song acoustically.
Nice.
And so there's a recording of that you'll hear after Will does his whole thing. So anything else to add, Sejohn, before we...
No, man. Everybody have fun this week. You be safe on your journeys, Devon. I will report back.
Yours. Please do not throw tomahawks. Like, it's a fun thing to joke about, but it's super dangerous.
Yeah, no drone hatchet throwing for me this weekend. Weekend.
All right. So until next time, I'm Devon Decker.
I'm Sejohn Sarowick, and you can find Devon on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And you can find Sejohn at Siege versus the World. And without further ado, William, take us away.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Sarowick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.
And can we talk about all the stars on Cheers? I mean, it's a star-studded cast.
Fantastic. The show Cheers is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who's... Like, it was so huge when it was on TV.
Yeah. You have the lyrics?
I'm all ready. Yeah, let's do this. Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? All those nights when you've got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail, and your third fiance didn't show. Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see the troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee is dead. The morning's looking bright, and your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. And your husband wants to be a girl. Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name. That place is Cheers, and they're always glad you came. You wanna go where people know that people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. You wanna be where you can see the troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.
Thank you!